Clorinde, Alhaitham, Sigewinne and Furina. Choices to make. Hey there. In this video, I'm going to be going over who you should be going for if you're looking to pull a character in 4.7. This video aims to bring you a general sense of direction if you're confused on who to go for, or if you're just generally curious. So we're going to be going over a few things in this video. 1. A pretty brief overview into the character and what their role is in a team. This should help you to decide who to go for from a gameplay perspective. 2. Comparisons to other characters within that element, not to pit them against each other out of toxicity, but to see if the character fits what you need, or if another character within that element fits you more instead. 3. If you should be going for constellations or weapons. And 4. And finally, free-to-play options. Ready? Let's go. Clorinde is a 5-star Electro Sword user. She works best as a main DPS. If you're in need of an Electro DPS who works well with reactions like Hyper Bloom, Aggravate and more, Clorinde might be for you. While having an incredible, cool burst that can also do decent damage, her normal attacks can be held down during her elemental skill, which makes using her normal attacks pretty nice. Clorinde is also pretty flexible, she's not static. Using her elemental skill, she can either stay in place or dash around the battlefield. So there's a range of ways to play with her. She can also self-heal, which as we've seen with the likes of Neuvillette, Risley, Arlecchino, it's just a very nice thing to have. So if you're looking for a fun Electro main DPS, maybe consider Clorinde. Should you pull for Clorinde or should you save for Raiden Shogun? To that answer, I would say it depends. Clorinde's main purpose is to deal damage. And it's very decent electro damage too. It's pretty good. So you really can't go wrong with having Clorinde in your roster. However, while Raiden Shogun can be a burst DPS, she also is a massive help for battery purposes, making her not only a nice damage dealer but also a good support. So two things in one unit. Clorinde is skill dependent when it comes to damage, and Raiden Shogun is burst dependent. So it just depends on what you want. Do you want a sole damage dealer for electro? If so, go for Clorinde. If you want an electro damage dealer who can also be a really nice support, then go for Raiden Shogun. However, having both is also nice. If you have the means to, should you go for Clorinde Constellations or her weapon? Clorinde at C0 is already pretty strong, so while her constellations are nice to have, none of them are a must. So at least in my opinion, I would say go for her weapon over her constellations. Is Clorinde good for free-to-plays? As in, can free-to-plays use her without 5-star weapons and 5-star units? Since we've just gone over that she doesn't necessarily need constellations for her to be good, let's talk about teams. Ideally you want to run her in like a Hyper Bloom team or an Aggravate team, and while having like Nahida and Furina and C6 Kudrosara would be great for her. There are plenty of non-C6 4-stars that you can use for her. Just off the top of my head, you could use Yao Yao, you could use Xingqiu, you can even use Bennett for his burst. You could use Sucrose for crowd control, you could try using Colle if you have her, you could use Fischl for battery purposes, you could use Beidou if you have her at C1 or above for her shield. There are plenty of 4-stars that you can use with her, and if you have the ones I just mentioned and you're free to play, then perhaps consider getting Clorinde. As for weapons, of course her best ones are going to be obviously her signature, 5-stars and battle pass weapons. If you have enough saved for the Blackcliff sword, then that'll be your best bet. Otherwise, Harbinger of Dawn is a solid option for her if nothing else. Alhaitham is a 5-star Dendro sword user. He works best as a Dendro DPS. Alhaitham is able to provide consistent Dendro damage, and like Clorinde, he's pretty reliant on elemental reactions to do damage, so like Hyper Bloom and Spread. Initially he seems a bit complex to use, but once you get the hang of it, he's pretty easy to play. You just gotta keep an eye on things. Now, as someone who's had Alhaitham since his first banner, allow me to explain. Yeah, there's two different ways you can use Alhaitham to keep him going, but the main point of his kit is to make sure that you have all 3 mirrors on him at any given time. Let's get this wonderful, beautiful man up on screen. What is this team? The first way is to use his skill. So, as you can see, skill... Oh my god, I missed... That's embarrassing. Right, so use his skill, and as you can see next to him, he should have, he has all 3 mirrors, and you want to continuously attack until all his mirrors are pretty much done. There we go, he's got no more. The second way to get all his mirrors up is to use his burst. Like this. And then just use his normal attacks. I can't talk, it's almost 2 AM, but you kind of get the picture there. So ideally, what you're going to want to do is you want to use his burst, then his normal attacks, then his skill, then more normal attacks. So let me see if I can do that now. Let her say her little speech. So let's just get everyone up first. 1, 2, 3. Right. So first you use his burst, then normal attacks. Oh my god, she's freaking dying already. That's one example. Then the second example, I didn't expect her to die so quickly, is using his, you know, bam, his skill, then normal attacks until mirrors are gone. Pretty much how it's done. So yeah, life hack, if you don't have his burst, just use his skill to get all his mirrors, and then if you have his burst, use his burst first, then normal attacks, and then skill, and then more normal attacks. And yeah. That's how you play Alhaitham. It's not too complicated. You'll get the hang of it in no time, I'm sure. I would do character comparisons, but at the moment, Alhaitham is the strongest Dendro DPS in the game. While you can argue and be correct in saying that Nahida is the best Dendro unit in the entire game, since she can also do her own damage, and she is totally worth getting. Like the Clorinde versus Raiden Shogun debate, Alhaitham is just a Dendro DPS. And while Nahida can also put out Dendro damage, she's more tailored to be a support within a Dendro related team. So again, if you're looking for a Dendro DPS, go for Alhaitham. If you're looking for a Dendro unit who can put out Dendro damage, but also be an incredible support for a Dendro team, then go for Nahida. Should you go for Alhaitham's Constellations or his weapon? While Constellations for Alhaitham are nice to have, he's pretty strong at C0 already. So if you're in a position to go for either cons or his weapon, I would say his weapon is probably the better choice here. Is Alhaitham free-to-play friendly, considering that he doesn't necessarily need Constellations to be good? Alhaitham can be used in a wide variety of teams, as long as he's able to make use of Dendro-related reactions. Ideally, a bit like Clorinde, you want a team of characters who are able to provide off-field damage, of Hydro or Electro, which is why people like to go for 5 stars like Furina, Yelan, Raiden Shogun, Yaimiko, and, of course, Nahida. However, if you don't have those 5 stars, you can still make use of Xingqiu, Kuki Shinobu, Yao Yao, Fischl, and you know what, even Barbara. So if you have any of those characters, perhaps you could consider getting Alhaitham. Weapon-wise, it is a bit more difficult, again like Clorinde, as many of his best weapons are 5 stars. And if you're not going for his signature, then you're pretty limited to saving up for the Blackcliff Sword, pulling Harbinger of Dawn, crafting Iron Sting, and maybe getting Xiphos Moonlight if you've gotten lucky on 4-star weapon pulls. So if you have any of those weapons, then you should be good. This video is sponsored by TokyoTreat and Sakuraco. TokyoTreat is a monthly pop Japanese snack box where you will get up to 20 exclusive, limited edition and seasonal flavoured Japanese snack items, including Japanese instant ramen and drinks that are only available in Japan for a limited time. Sakuraco is a monthly Japanese artisan snack box that supports local Japanese snack makers, with each box coming with 20 traditional, authentic and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and a special Japanese tableware. This month's TokyoTreat theme is Tokyo Snackation. TokyoTreat invites you to journey through Japan's exciting and colourful capital city, Tokyo, which is TokyoTreat's hometown. This month's TokyoTreat box is packed, filled with delicious, sweet and savoury snacks inspired by this famous city. I very much enjoyed the Kit Kat Royal Milk Tea and the Melon Cream Soda. This month's Sakuraco theme is Traditions of Tokyo. Tokyo isn't just a massive city, it has a rich history that stretches back centuries. That's why this month, Sakuraco invites you to step back in time to Tokyo's Edo period and immerse yourself in the timeless charm of traditional Tokyo by savouring authentic flavours from this city. I really like the Tokyo Skytree baked chocolate, not just because it tastes good, but also because I visited it when I went to Japan on holiday recently. And I also enjoyed the blueberry tartlets. TokyoTreat and Sakuraco have been a sponsor on this channel for a while now, but this is my first time opening their boxes after coming back from Japan itself. And I must say, it hits different in the best way possible. These boxes are absolutely perfect for any Japan enthusiast, whether you want to go there or whether you have been there before. They're great boxes if you want to bring Japan to your own home. So click the link in the description or the pinned comment to get $5 off your first box if you use my code. And once again, thank you TokyoTreat and Sakuraco for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to 4.7. Sigewinne is a 5-star Hydro bow user. Sigewinne is a healer and a buffer that can deal damage. She uses her elemental skill to heal the whole team, and her elemental burst deals damage. Since she's not out at the time of recording this, all we know is that she's probably going to be best built as a support for healing. Unlike with Clorinde and Alhaitham, I can't really go too much into detail about Sigewinne regarding constellations and things like that, but I can only assume that because she's Hydro, she's gonna work well in Hyperbloom teams, as well as Freeze teams. So if you're somehow in need of a Hydro character who can heal and also provides Hydro damage, then maybe consider Sigewinne. I might need to make a whole video on her, to be honest, but that's all we know so far. Though to be honest, Sigewinne might get overshadowed by Furina since this is her first free run, so let's talk about that. Furina is a 5-star Hydro sword user who represents the gameplay for the Hydro Archon. She works best as a sub DPS and a support character. As a sub DPS, she mainly uses her elemental skill. Her elemental skill allows her to summon 3 Hydro elemental monsters, which periodically attacks, inflicting the enemy with Hydro. Her elemental burst gives a damage bonus for the team. Furina is able to deal powerful amounts of Hydro damage off field and with pretty much 100% uptime. And of course, being a sub DPS as well as a buffer, she is incredibly flexible and can work in pretty much any team. However, the big risk is that she does drain the HP for everyone in the party. So if you are going to use her, just make sure that you pair her up with a healer, like Jean, for example. Arguably, 2 of the best Hydro units in the game right now are Furina and Neuvillette. So if you're debating on who to go for between them, again it just depends on what sort of role you're looking for. Neuvillette is more of a main Hydro DPS, while Furina is a sub DPS and support. So if you need a main DPS for the Hydro element, then go for Neuvillette. If you already have a main DPS for Hydro and you want to go for a sub DPS and support character, then Furina's your girl. If you have the means to, what should you go for? Furina's Constellations or her weapon? Furina needs as much ER and HP as she can, and C1 is going to help with that. So, at least in my opinion, let me know what you think. I believe that getting her Constellations should be more of a focus than getting her weapon. Is Furina free-to-play friendly? While of course Constellations are nice to have, she can work at C0. And like we said before, as long as you have a healer on your team, she works pretty well in most teams. So the bare minimum is just having a healer, which I'm sure you have if you have a decent amount of 4-star characters. Weapon-wise, while of course her best weapons are going to be 5 stars and Battle Pass weapons, she can use the Floofsadra Ferryman sword, which you can get from fishing, and you can also use Favonia's sword or the Dock Hand Resistance if you've gotten lucky on weapon banner pulls. So if you have those weapons, maybe perhaps consider getting Furina. So to conclude, pull for Clorinde if you need an Electro main DPS, pull for Alhaitham if you need a Dendro main DPS, pull for Sigewinne if you need Hydro healer and damage dealer, and pull for Furina if you need an off-field Hydro damage dealer and a buffer. But I want to know your thoughts. Are you pulling this patch? If not, who are you saving for? Thanks for watching, comment this bird emoji, and follow my socials. Peace!